Hey guys, just want to do a quick video update on the jade plants here, especially or specifically the one I got off of Marketplace. Um, mixed mixed feelings about the seller on Marketplace. I did receive one of my jade plants. As you guys remembered, it was really dry, which it's supposed to be when you ship those because drying it out kind of helps with the breakage of the branches through shipment. But the packaging was extremely poor. I had a lot of branches break anyways. And yeah, the quality of the jade plants aren't super great. Noticeably, how the branches are growing towards one side, which leads me to believe that the plant itself was never rotated, so it one side was facing the sun the whole time. So, I'll actually go through some growing tips as well. So the first one is rotate your plants. You don't want the same side facing the window for long periods of time because then you will get branch structure like this. You can see all the branches are growing this way. So now the only way to correct this is either to prune it, or I'm gonna have to get wire and wire this back out this way. This branch is gonna need to get wired out back this way, and you can see kind of the branch behind there, middle fingers pointing at, is also, curving, leaning towards the left side there. So definitely not something you want to deal with afterwards. So just be mindful and keep rotating your plants. This one, as you can see, is still doing quite well. Looks very nice. I got a little cheap Dollar Tree Buddha statue at the base there. Mainly because with the soil mixture, the topsoil kind of dries out a lot. So I have that there to kind of help keep some of the moisture at the surface there. So still looking good. It has kind of pruned itself. Some of the branches kind of dried, and some of the smaller branches have dried and fallen off by themselves due to the fact that it is winter here and we don't get that much sunlight. So, you got to be careful with the watering. I can show you here. This is another thing that is very useful for anybody who has houseplants. You need to get one of these. This is a moisture meter. This one actually has the three settings: moisture, light, and pH. I don't really use the light and the pH. I obviously know that you can tell if you have enough light or not enough light. Usually a south facing or a west window is pretty good. East and north, not so great. I have an east window, so I know it's not great. North is the worst, east is second worst, then west, and south is the best direction for the northern hemisphere. So so as you can see here, I'm going to use this on the soil. You can see it is dry. I'm going to go down about an inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, and 5 inches, and all the way down. So you can see there's a difference in moisture as you go down. So this one could probably use some water right now. It is at moist on the bottom, so you got to be careful. When it's like that, where you have uneven moisture, really dry at the top and wet at the bottom, you want to water slowly. If you water too fast, the soil on top is hydrophobic, so meaning it's not going to absorb water very fast. So it's just going to drain all the way to the bottom, making the bottom even more wet, and the top is going to stay moist for a little bit, and then it's going to dry out again. So you got to water very slowly. Get the top to get wet. So a spray bottle usually works well, or if you're good with watering, just water it slowly on top. Let the top absorb the water, and then you can water fully. With using this, it's helpful to do two different types of watering. I have a deep watering and then a surface watering. So when I get something like this where it's still wet at the bottom and dry on the top, I will water it so that only the top layers get wet. And then by the time that the top dries out again, the bottom should be dry. And then I'll do a deep watering and I'll water the whole thing. So that is the other tip. The biggest tip though is for watering to begin with is your plant to soil ratio. You can see that this pot here is not super big for the plant. This actually dries out pretty quick, relatively to what you would see. Some people water and they wait 2, 3, 4 weeks for it to dry out. That's way too long. Ideally, I would say about 3 or 4 days is really good, and then you keep watering because roots like to, get the water, dry out, not dry out completely, but dry, and then get more water, dry, so that it's more consistently moist. The roots need to breathe also. Roots don't just absorb water, they help, the plant breathe. So if you're constantly sitting in water, it can't breathe, and that's when you get the anaerobic bacteria and root rot. So you just got to make sure that, the soil stays moist, but not wet. It also doesn't like to be dry, just like how the soil is right now. But it's just starting to dry out, so it's fine. But if you leave it in this condition here for a long period of time, the roots dry out too much and they die. So it is bad both ways. However, dried roots, if it dies that way, it is a lot easier to come back, bounce back, than if you had, rotting roots. So that's why most people, a lot of people will tell you these things like to be dry versus being wet. And that is true, but plants like to have moist roots, not dry roots. So you want a healthy plant, a thriving plant. That's the condition that you need to have your plants in. So back to the soil ratio, you can see that there's a lot of plant to soil, especially succulents and cacti. You do not want too much soil. Same with citrus, all the other plants. If you can get them to dry out before a week, that's ideal. Also make sure you understand the characteristics of your soil. I know with this mix, the top dries out a lot faster than the bottom, so you got to watch out for that. You always, a lot of people look at the top and it looks dry and then they water it, but underneath it's still very wet, and that's usually what kills plants. So try to avoid that. Those are some tips I have just for water management. But yeah, you can see, this one's still doing really well. May require some more pruning in the springtime, summertime when I bring it back outside. I still really like the branch structure. You can see that it is not growing all towards one side. It's natural looking. For this one, not so much. They are, growing majority to one side. So I'm just going to leave it like that. I pruned it and potted it up. I believe it was late last year, and you can see some of the new growth coming out after I pruned it. So this is exactly what we want. You can see, this one has 3 branches coming out of where I pruned it. 2 branches here, 2 branches. So it's getting that nice ramification that we want, and it is filling in. The foliage is getting thicker. If you watch my previous video on this, you could see that there was barely any foliage left. So. And the reason why I say I had mixed feelings with this seller was they have a lot of sales, but I paid for this one and I paid for another one. The other one I'm really disappointed about. It was about a 4 or 5 foot tall jade, very old, big trunk. Paid for it, didn't hear nothing for 3-4 weeks or something like that. For a really long time, didn't hear anything. And then just got my money back, and they never shipped it. So. Pretty sketchy, no communication. I did receive this one, so it's a mixed bag. So always buy using a method where you are protected, because stuff like that does happen. So, but I am happy, not super happy, but I am okay with this one. I am disappointed with the branch structure of this one. It didn't look anything like the picture. I thought the picture was the actual plant, but it wasn't. It was just the photo that they keep reusing. So, well, we've got some work cut out for us to make this, you know, into something like that. But we're up for it. And you can see that the leaves on this one is slightly different than that one. This is a Crosby, supposed to be really red, which is why I bought it in the summer when it gets a lot of sunlight. This one is similar, not sure if it's going to be completely red, but it will have red edges. But they are smaller leaves. This one's really small. This one is a medium size. And then I've got the one that I drastically pruned that has really, really big leaves. They're literally like that long. So not that long on the plant, but that long between my fingers. So I also have that ladyfinger jade, which I really like. It's doing well, putting out some new foliage, and I'll do some video updates on those at a later time. I will do a video update on the drastically pruned jade also. But this is the update on these. They're doing well. I am little, I don't want to say disappointed. It's expected. Winter, they don't grow too well. Just want to point out here, you can see the node is really long because they're not getting as much light as they would like. Ideally, it should be smaller. You can see each one of these lines on this branch is a node, and you can see these are really small. So they've been, you know, growing, getting a lot of light, so they're shorter. When you don't get as much light, they become long. That's another thing with the jade growth. If you have jade indoors all year round, you're going to get that long, droopy willow growth. Just prune it off. Just keep pruning it off because it just looks unkept, unless you're going for that, you know, cascading look. But still, you'd have to go in there and manage it to make it look like a nice cascade. But there's no point in having, you know, a really messy jade. I've seen those where they're just super long. The foliage is not tightly packed, and it just doesn't look good. However, to each their own. If that's the look you're going for, go for it. But if you're looking to get something like this where it's very tidy, tree-like, then anytime you get those long growths, cut it off, prune it, and let it branch out. Like for this one, I'm going to probably get rid of this branch because one, it's growing back into the tree. So it has two here anyways, or three. So you got to get rid of at least one of those. So this one is a prime, but I'm going to keep it there. I'm going to keep it there to thicken up the branch. But if I was to keep this, I would cut it here anyways to get rid of this long growth and let it branch out again. So that's that. The video is getting pretty long, so I'll end it here. But that's the update on the marketplace jade plant that I got not too long ago. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.